HIMS and Hers Health. This is a new stock on the channel and is likely going to be the next big position in my portfolio. But HIMS and Novo partnership. HIMS and Novo drops their whole lawsuit and they got an exclusive partnership going. The thing about that to understand is that HIMS can only sell branded GLP-1s now. They can only sell the branded ones, which is Novo branded semaglutide and Eli Lilly's tirzepatide. So they can only sell the branded versions of that. Why that's important is because HIMS, the reason why HIMS had that 60%, 70% revenue growth for the past year or so is because what they were doing was selling something called compounded GLP-1s. Compounded GLP-1s basically means they went in their lab and they just mixed up their little bunch and they had their own mix, right? So it's an off-brand Kirkland Great Value version of a fat loss medication. And that meant that HIMS could sell it for cheaper than everyone else, which means they make the most revenue, so they could sell it cheaper than anyone else, and they make the full margin profile because they mixed it in-house. Compared to selling Novo and Eli Lilly's. If you sell Novo and Eli Lilly's products, well, you got to pay them, right? And that is the key thing to understand. HIMS still can't sell the compounded, right? That's still gone. You can't do that. Eli Lilly doesn't allow that, and now Novo's an exclusive partnership, so they're getting a better deal on Novo products, but it's not the same. It's not the same as selling compounded. Selling the compounded medication is an in-house mix that beats everyone else's price. You win the entire space, and you make more margins on it, right? More profits. So that just means that HIMS's revenue growth is not going to, at least in my opinion, I don't think it's going to be going back to that 60, 70% because they still have to pay Novo, right? They still have to get the product from Novo. They might get a better price because it's an exclusive distribution deal, but it's not the same as mixing in-house. And a quick note about that is that if you know anything about fat loss and GLP-1s, well, if you look at the development pipeline and the clinical trials, Eli Lilly's tirzepatide is way better than semaglutide. Like, it's just way better. Based on the last trial, the reason why Novo is on the floor right now is because based on the last clinical trials of GLP-1s, the current form of Eli Lilly's tirzepatide, whatever medication it's called, the current form of that is better than Novo's future product, the one they haven't even released. The current Eli Lilly product is better than the future Novo product. And obviously Eli Lilly has future products. Like, they have products in the pipeline too. So, overall, if you're comparing the future of fat loss, well, it's actually with Eli Lilly. And Eli Lilly, they have their own DTC platform. They do their own thing. They don't want to deal with HIMS. That's why they only sell wholesale to HIMS. They don't have that kind of partnership. So in general, when it comes to the fat loss growth, it's a little bit muted. Now, we still have some growth because we're still in the space. We can sell Novo products. But it's just going to be less revenue than before, less margins than before, and for a lesser product, right? On the market, the better product is, for the next quite a while, the next 5 years or so, the better product is with Eli Lilly. So in my opinion, I think the market's overreacting a little bit, but they were also overreacting on the downside. So it's tough to really say, but I think as the quarters roll in, it might sort of peter off a little bit. And maybe even with the macro situation, right? With everything happening in the world, it might just be muted because of that. But the main thing to understand, and I'm going to break down HIMS as one of my next video, the video after. The main thing to understand about HIMS and why the stock is moving like this and why there's so much fuss about fat loss is because the market doesn't understand what HIMS is. And I also misunderstood HIMS. If I had understood HIMS, the second it went to 1 times price to sales, 15, 16, immediately in. But I was under the impression that HIMS was a DTC medication platform, right? Just like a brand that you can get your meds from, you subscribe to it. And then, I don't know, they just send you your medication easily. That's what I thought. That's what I thought the whole business was. Which on paper, that's not bad, right? They can make a lot of money. It makes things easier. You don't have to go to the pharmacy, stuff like that. But then the more you look into it, it's like, oh, well, that business model is not really going to work long term because they don't want to go through insurance, which naturally limits them, right? If you don't want to do insurance, you can't sell a lot of drugs. You just can't sell them, right? You can't sell like the stronger medications. They're all FDA, they're locked up. You need to go through insurance for all those. So that's why HIMS sells, the personal kind of drugs, right? I call them the consumer meds. That's what they sell, like the lower grade kind of stuff. And then digging deeper into that, I'm looking at Amazon Health and I'm going, well, actually, Amazon Health is a better DTC med platform. Like if they want to build that out, they just win, right? So that's really why I wasn't buying the stock, and that's why the market sold the stock off so much, and it's also why the market's buying it back. Because if it's just a DTC med platform, if it's just this kind of medication platform, well, if you lose out on fat loss, that's a big hit. That's a big hit because they don't go through insurance. So you don't have a lot of medications. Fat loss would have been a huge growth driver, like it has been, right? But the thing is that HIMS is not a DTC medication platform. That's what they're doing right now. That is stage one. That's just stage one for them. What they're really setting up for is a longevity platform. It's a health optimization platform. Okay, I don't even know how to explain it, but if you know about biohacking or longevity protocols the way like Brian Johnson does it, Huberman Labs, anyone like that, this kind of stuff is not just a trend. This is optimizing your biology. It's going to help you live longer, live healthier, live better. This is the future of health, and the issue with it is just that there's a difficult barrier to entry, right? It's expensive for one thing, and it's complicated. There's a lot of scam supplements and stuff a lot of confusing stuff. What HIMS is aiming to do, again, if you just look at the website, me too. I should have looked at the conference calls on the website. I should have looked into it more. But what HIMS is going to do is it's going to give you access to the more in-depth stuff, lab tests, getting your scans and all your hormone levels, all your readings. They're going to give you access to that for a subscription. Whereas if you follow Brian Johnson, the longevity guy, you look at his protocols, these are really, really expensive. You know how many lab tests, you know how much that costs? I think he has his own lab. He can afford it because, well, he started Venmo. He invented Venmo and Braintree, so he's rich. But HIMS, they're a company, and what they're trying to do is give the people access to this. That's why they're setting up labs. And that's why they're setting up all that stuff. It's not for pharma. They're not setting up to make medications and make stuff like that. They're setting up these labs so they can test, like they can test the samples and all this kind of stuff to help people optimize. And now that's the core thing to understand here, is that it's not a med platform. That's just stage one. Stage one is the med platform. Really what this is it's like SoFi. It's a forever subscription. SoFi, Netflix, Duolingo. It's a forever SaaS company, but for health. Okay? And that's the confusion. That's why it shouldn't be moving around like this. Because it deserves a crash for the GLP-1 thing, but not the way it crashed. Because what they're really doing is revolutionary. And it is the direction of the world. I'm already doing it. I do it myself because who doesn't want to be clear in the mind and live longer? I don't understand. Like, it's a very simple thing, and it's going to spread to the world. Now I'm going to do a full breakdown soon on HIMS. Let me know in the comments what exactly you would want to see there, and obviously subscribe if you want to see that. But that's just the core thing to understand there. All right, now overall, when we go to the financials, we see what I was talking about earlier. It's revenue acceleration, right? They put up 20%, I think, was the last quarter. Now, people are thinking that because of this deal, we're going back to, 40, 70, whatever the number might be. That's what they're pricing in now. And it's just that's not really what they're set up for, because they can't do compounded anymore. Of course, long term, they're setting up for way more. Way more than just selling these medications. This is a forever subscription. And when it comes to biohacking and health optimization, there's more than just a subscription, okay? There's like wearables and different types of hormone types of biohacking kind of things you can do. There's going to be a lot of things that come out, and you'll see what I mean. Now, this could be a plus and a minus, but they also have this eucalyptus situation where it's really good long term, the international expansion, but that's going to be a drag on margins for the next year or so. They even mentioned in the conference call it's going to be a drag. It's probably not going to break even for a little bit, and a little bit is a couple quarters. It's not a big issue, but again, you're going to have a margin drag, and you're not going to have as much revenue as you did before. Now, when I say it's a double edge, is because, well, they have the international platform and a deal with Novo, so they can sell Novo products internationally, which is good. But let's say Lilly sells their products. I mean, Eli Lilly's products are better. What can I say? Eli Lilly, if they sell internationally, it's cooked. It's cooked because it's a better product. Simple. So definitely, if you're in it for a fat loss kind of a play, that's not really, I wouldn't really do that, because they're gonna have a little bit of muted growth in fat loss than people are expecting. Now, in terms of the balance sheet here, pretty solid. I'm not sure if the numbers are the exact same, but overall, I mean, they don't have the cash to total that Duolingo and Honest have, so it's not like a smash. But again, you look at the current liabilities. Current liabilities is the more urgent stuff. Total liabilities is going to include debt, the long-term debt, and whatever kind of stuff. So current liabilities is really what you look at, and cash, you have enough to cover your current. Good stuff. And the legal cloud is gone. There's no lawsuit, so we're totally good on the balance sheet front. So it's really good financials, pretty decent valuation, but I'm personally thinking it might shake around just because of the geopolitics. Really what it is. Really is about the geopolitics, but it's also about the fact that the market doesn't understand the company, right? The market thinks it's a DTC med platform. So if they start to see some issues with fat loss, they might sell it back down. Because, I mean, again, look at how much they sold down Novo. I mean, they cooked Novo, right? Novo even recovered a little while back, and they went to 60 like a month ago. And because of that Eli Lilly news, I told you, they compared the clinical trials of the two drugs. Yeah, they crashed Novo to 38. So just, if they see a similar issue again, might not be priced so good. But of course, if they do understand it and they want to price it for stage 3, which is fair. You're totally valid to price it for stage 3. Stage 3 HIMS it's worth that 6 times. That 6 times sales, it's worth it. 6 to 10 times sales, I'd say it's worth it. Maybe not 10, because it's not like a pure SaaS. You get labs and kind of stuff. A little more asset heavy, but 6 to 10. Forever subscription, don't forget. Just like SoFi could be 5 to 10, 6 to 10 is because even with all the debts and all this kind of stuff, forever subscription, that's really attractive. Remember, forever subscription means you can just constantly be selling them stuff. Constantly. And people will buy them because of the flywheel effect, where you get benefits from everything. Alright, now, if this video helped you understand these companies any better, drop a quick like, drop a comment if you don't mind. And also, if you want to see the HIMS breakdown that's coming out and the PayPal breakdown, then hit subscribe. But thanks so much for watching. Y'all have a good one.